Non-understandable art and how to understand it. Art collectors, artists, and patrons of the arts having drinks together. In the following conversation, a socialite encounters members of the Vasl Artists Association and discovers the limitations and possibilities of contemporary Pakistani art through Vasl's programs and experiences. By using satire, the podcast focuses on the production and consumption of art in the context of various social and psychological power structures.
It was a chilly evening in Karachi. Champa had just made a drink for herself and was looking for new people she could be introduced to. She loved meeting new people so that they could experience the enigma that she was. While sauntering on the spacious, elegantly decorated balcony, she made a conscious effort to ignore the people she knew. Champa often refused to make eye contact with a lot of her acquaintances because she believed in the power of ignoring. The more you ignore someone, the higher your social status is perceived. Sometimes socializing meant putting on a performance for people instead of actually talking to them. From the corner of her eye, Champa could see some of her acquaintances scanning her. Probably trying to say hello, but she just walked straight past them, making sure her posture was erect. She then spotted some artistic-looking girls sitting by the edge talking about something seemingly work-related. She figured they were artists because their clothes, despite being non-designer outfits, managed to look good. She walked closer, making sure her Chanel clutch was displayed ostentatiously across her chest, along with the diamond earrings in her ear. She hoped these artists recognized Chanel and could identify real diamonds from the fake. As she walked towards them, accentuating her toned figure, she overheard them say something about a performance piece. Excited, she decided to walk closer to these girls and introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Champa. I heard you guys talking about art. Thought I'd introduce myself.
She was a bold, confident woman who would walk up to strangers and strike a conversation.
I'm an art collector. My husband and I love art. Are you all artists?
Champa truly did love artists. She always felt she was one of them, but better, of course.
Well, Hira is a sculptor. We both graduated from the Indus Valley School of Art and Architecture. She graduated in 2015 and I graduated in 2014. I'm a graphic designer.
Sculpture? Wow. I do think it's such a great thing when artists take their work into the third dimension. It's quite fascinating, really. I actually think someone needs to start a YouTube channel on how to display sculptures properly. It's much harder to get a sculpture to look good than a painting. All my friends have had such issues displaying sculptures,
Champa loved talking about her friends, even though she was not too fond of them.
Anyway, we work at Vasl. Are you familiar with it?
Yes. I know, Vasl. You asked me for a quote on art once for some publication.
Champa had wanted to give so much more than just one quote.
So, do you also get to make sculptures at work?
It was only since the last 2 years that Champa had acquainted herself to art that existed outside the drawing rooms. Prior to then, she had always wondered how anyone could have a career in the arts. After all, there isn't a lot to do other than having art exhibitions. One person paints and the helpers put the paintings up. However, by 2019, she had become more aware and was familiar with much more terms. So she was all set to impress these girls with her knowledge.
I love art. Tell me more about it. So what kind of art does your organization produce? Does Vasl also have a gallery? Do you also do oil and mixed media? Oh my god, do you also do watercolors?
Actually, we don't really do that. Our main purpose here at Vasl is to facilitate art and culture in the country. So we function as a space and a platform that nurtures creativity and allows for freedom for creating experimental work.
Experimental?
Mildly confused but not surprised, Champa's mind started reeling. Even though Champa had a feeling the art that Vasl facilitated would be very different, she still had a soft spot for pretty paintings, and she longed to meet people who appreciated the visual aspect of art. She nodded quietly to show that she understood what that meant. There were far too many ways one could experiment with art. However, Champa's favorite question began to float in her head. If it's not up on a wall, is it really art? But since Champa wanted to impress the girls, she didn't say it out loud. She started to get a sense that the art Vasl created was of a different genre than what galleries sold. Art was not just restricted to drawing rooms anymore. Art was now everywhere. Like artificial intelligence, it seemed to have the ability to develop its own personality. She wanted to know more about experimental art. She was quick to realize she probably won't be able to purchase the art coming out of Vasl, but she figured that nonetheless she would be able to assist this production with a unique intellectual input.
Oh, I see. Yes, yes. That type of art is also incredibly important for our cultural and psychological evolution. I mean, the way I see art, oil on canvas is important for our drawing rooms, but the experimental work is important for the development of the nation, the development of society, you know. So, how long have you been working at Vasl for?
We joined Vasl a few years ago at different points in 2016. Vasl has been functioning since 2001 actually. Initially as an artist collective, we recently re-registered as an artists association. It started off with a group of artists and since then it's been run by Adila Suleiman. She's our current director. Our main programs are residencies that we host for international and national artists. We do educational outreach efforts such as workshops and public art projects, produce publications.
So, what kind of artists do you choose? I also know some great artists you might like, by the way. I commissioned one of them to make a portrait of my husband and me.
Even though by now Champa knew that they would not be interested in artists who make portraits, Champa still felt it was important to flaunt that one knows people. That is the only way people take you seriously.
I think we've so far incorporated around 2,000 artists and people related to the arts through the projects that we've been implementing.
How fascinating! 2,000 artists? Wow, this is truly incredible. You must be working non-stop.
You would be surprised to know actually. Vasl has been working non-stop. It's actually the most favorite thing our director likes to quote about Vasl. But I mean, we've had our good days and our bad days.
Haha, sounds like a marriage. That also requires so much work, you know. But you know, in the end, all the work is totally worth it if your husband's rich. Anyway, tell me about the bad days. I would love to help you in whatever way I can.
Champa prided on being an all-rounder, a trophy wife, a socialite, and an intellectually driven woman with a fantastic sense of humor.
So basically, funding and support from international organizations were at their peak when 9/11 happened. That was one of the events that really shook things for Vasl in terms of logistics and finances. Our fundings got cut and suddenly there were higher risks of inviting international artists. There was political instability and insecurity. I could go on. I mean, the impact was felt world over, but the perspective of Pakistan really shifted for the rest of the world.
Champa did not appreciate the fact that these artists ignored her jokes on marriage. They probably don't appreciate the importance of marriages and being married to rich men. Since she was a well-behaved woman, she chose to not show her displeasure and instead move on with the conversation. She also wanted to establish a trustworthy relationship with these girls. The fact that this organization required funding excited her. She had some great ideas on how Vasl could generate funds. She even had ways of getting rich people to donate money. She decided to become a mentor to these girls and bestow them with her priceless advice and contacts.
But why can't you make money by selling the work produced by the artists you work with? I mean, I do think we do need to start seeing art as a product which needs to be marketed properly. Granted, it has those intellectual and mystical abilities that are transcendent. One still needs money to operate.
Yeah, but our agenda is not to make money, but to create resources for the artists. As it is, we are a not-for-profit organization.
The term not-for-profit always made Champa giggle. How could anything be without profit? Since Champa's manners were impeccable, she did not laugh out loud. Instead, she narrowed her eyes, hoping everyone would notice her thick lashes, and nodded ever so slightly. What they needed, Champa thought to herself, was a marketing and a branding department. Someone who could understand and sell art. And in order to do so, it needed to be defined by genres, like drawing room art, research art, protest art, etc. The more clearly defined the categories of art there are, the easier it would be for collectors to decide what they wanted to buy. Sometimes she even thought painting should come with an instruction manual, a manual teaching the collector on the many ways they can install the artwork.
Anyway, you know about Adila, right, Champa?
Yes, I've seen her at the thesis shows of Indus Valley. I haven't been introduced to her yet, but I am sure she's heard of me. I do think we could become best friends if we were to meet. She will love me. So tell me, Janice, where do you get your funding from?
So, right. Anyway, Adila heads the fine art department in Indus, and she's also a practicing artist. Together with Naila Mahmood, who's the other director of Vasl, the two have been running the place since the past 2 years. Literally at time from their own pockets whenever we've had a shortfall of finances. Honestly, I find it really amazing how these people give back to the art world. Have you ever thought about it? You know, in fact, it's really individuals like you who are important to us art organizations.
Yeah, I can imagine. I love being important. And the work you say you do sounds quite interesting. And yes, we should definitely have a proper meeting and try to figure out different ways I can help you raise funds. I feel I can contribute in so many ways. The other day I was on my way to a brunch and I saw a woman selling tiny pieces of cloth at the signal. I realized that it looked like an art installation. Hanging off her arms, imagine an installation that you can carry. It was like a performance piece. Quite touching. There's art everywhere as long as you have the eye for it.
Sure, Champa, that's so profound.
Champa's heart swelled with joy upon being called profound. She knew exactly how profound she was, but when other people acknowledged that, it made her very happy.
So, what projects are you working on these days?
We are actually running a grant which is all about performance art in public. It's called Loudspeaker. It's a 4-tier project with public art, performances in public spaces, exhibitions, and publications. We have had local artists interact with the city as well. It's often a spiritual practice for them. Each artist connects and responds to their surroundings differently. Alongside that, we are running an international artist residency and are soon to start a fresh graduate residency as well. That's happening.
Oh yes, art is a spiritual practice, you know. I feel it encompasses everything, your emotions, your intellect, your spirituality. If you look at the beginnings of art, it was all created to seek out God and seek out answers to life's mysteries.
Even though Champa did not know much about the history of art, she was great at pretending that she did. And she was even better at talking about it with artists. She decided to continue speaking, since she knew how much people loved listening to her.
So, I have to admit, initially I found performance art a little difficult to decipher. I mean, it's just complicated, right? You never know what the artist is trying to say. Also, how do performance artists even make money? I mean, it's not like people can buy a performance, right? But you know, over the last few months, I've been reading a lot on performance art, and I do think I understand it a lot better now, you know, darling. I do feel that. I do feel I've definitely stepped out of my comfort zone. And I now think I've grown as a woman because of it. It has given me the exposure I needed to start collecting art confidently. So much so, I actually give advice to my friends now, you know. My friends tell me I can actually now become an art advisor.
That's a good point, you know. Performance art is actually about stepping out of one's comfort zones. Vasl has invited quite a few performance artists and projects that incorporate the discipline. Recently, we had a German performance artist, Johannes Paul Rether. He performed at the public beach, and his costume and his presence was as strong as the idea behind the whole thing. He calls himself a witch and researched about trade, economy, and migration. The project was actually called Karachi Trader. It was an intense performance with hundreds of people following us. Johannes took us through a walk around the open sewage leading into the beach, and then we rode camels, listening to his live audio WhatsApps about migration.
Oh my god, that sounds amazing. I wish I'd seen it too. You know, it sounds like such a unique experience. All the exposure that I've had towards art has been in people's drawing rooms and galleries, you know. Having to go to a public beach to experience art must be such an intellectual adventure. And it would give people so much to talk about. After all, that is what culture is, right? Experiencing different things and interpreting them in different ways.
This made her think about comfort zones. How there are so many different types of comfort zones. those that exist in the physical space, such as in one's house or the city they grew up in. Or it could be a mental persona that one holds on to, a certain prescribed manner of thinking one just can't let go of. And of course, an emotional comfort zone as well. Still holding on to people or places one knows they have grown out of. With this emotional epiphany, Champa realized that she needs to get out of her comfort zone of always wanting to acquire oil on canvas and start appreciating other, more strange forms of art. Maybe it was time to start understanding performance art. She decided to ask more hard-hitting questions.
But I have to ask, what could these foreign artists possibly do for the local community? Do locals even understand European postmodernism? But then again, all art doesn't need to be socially responsible, does it?
Well, I don't know how responsible it can be, but we definitely try to work with proposals which understand the socio-political situation of the country and are sensitive to the surroundings. It's actually more about being acceptable and about tolerance. In Pakistan, especially in Karachi, a lot of the times artists from other cities and countries think everything here is unsafe. They ask about security and other risks all the time.
That is such a shame, Johnny. I mean, really. But yes, it's such a tragic misconception of our country.
You would be surprised to know, though, we've never in our 18 years of existence faced resistance from the public we've interacted with. The artists are usually overwhelmed by how tolerant and inviting the audiences to newer ideas and just to art in general. So the learning goes both ways, you know what I mean?
Yes, I do. But when did art change from being oil on canvas to walking on public beaches?
When no one laughed at Champa's joke, she stared at them, putting on the sweetest smile she could muster. Their silence offended her. And Champa was not used to silent responses. The truth was, Champa did not quite understand why performance art was even invented. And when she did not understand anything, she would talk about it even more. Now, because of her mindless rambling, the gap between what she said and what she thought became a little too wide. But the wider the gap, the smarter she thought she came across. Why should anyone know what she was actually thinking? As she was mentally patting herself on her back, she realized she forgot her chain of thought, so she decided to talk about her friends again.
But you know, it's so hard to make people understand performance art. So many of my friends, Johnny, they just don't understand, they don't. And it's so sad, you know, because the artist, he puts in all this effort. It's like a labor of love and intellect, all this energy. But you know what the problem is?
Do tell, Champa.
And at this particular moment, Champa was convinced that this was one of those things she was destined to do, to guide artists on how to market and package non-understandable art.
The performance and the art in the performance, it needs to be deciphered. I mean, it would be amazing if somehow you could provide subtitles with the performance so everyone can understand the artist's actions. I mean, it is very important that the people who potentially collect art also start investing in performance art. I can even help you commoditize performance art. Might be a good way to generate funds,
By now, Champa felt she had been talking for far too long about a subject that was out of her expertise. But despite not knowing much, she knew she had given some very good ideas. Champa always felt the key to effective public speaking was to make lots of intelligent points and express strong opinions supported by some facts and scholarly jargon. It was important for her to give people unsolicited advice. Because if you don't give people advice they have not asked for, how will they realize how intelligent you are? She knew these girls were getting very inspired by her thoughts and ideas. Champa was a very impressive person after all. And she knew after this conversation, it would only be a matter of time before Adila would call Champa to offer her a place on the board of Vasl. But in order to make sure that happens, Champa needed to give out some more unsolicited suggestions.
Look, Johnny, it is absolutely imperative that you document everything that is happening. Everything. All the artwork that's been curated or produced under the Vasl umbrella must be celebrated. You must shine the torch of intellect on these works and experiences you talk about. beautiful works documented beautifully can turn us into a developed nation. We have to develop our intellectual culture. What is a nation without intellectuals, and what are intellectuals without their works being published? As an art collector, I accumulate intellect. That makes me an intellectual too. And as a privileged intellectual, I feel it is my duty to pass on my wisdom and my knowledge.
With this thought, Champa started planning to write a book. She would title it The Collector of Intellect, and it would be a splendidly written autobiography.
Actually, we have been documenting the Pakistani art scene through various ways, which are important for archival reasons as well. Vasl has been producing publications like zines, annual catalogs, and artist books for a while now. Our recent most publication is based on interviews with contemporary artists. The second volume comes out this year. In fact, would you be interested in helping fund it?
What?
We've started investing in publications and we just want to archive the art history and the artworks being produced in the country so students have material to refer to in art schools. I mean, we see this being done everywhere else in the world, and over here we always refer to Western artists for inspiration. So in 2018, we finally went ahead and published a volume of 4 books based on 4 contemporary Pakistani artists. We put them out in reasonable prices in all major bookstores across the country so that people buy them, and most importantly, students buy them and learn from the practice of these mid-career artists.
Oh, they were already working on publications? That wasn't good. There goes one of Champa's ideas to waste since it was already being implemented. She then decided to give them an unwarranted critique. Since she was so much smarter than the others, she knew it was her responsibility to inform people where they were going wrong.
But I haven't seen any of your publications in any drawing rooms.
This was a genuine worry for Champa because as the wife of an industrialist, she always thought about the return on investments. The only way luxury items can survive is to be seen in fancy drawing rooms. And Champa was also thinking about writing a book. This was her hinting that Vasl should offer her a book deal. She did not want to say this out loud, of course. A truly astute politician never reveals her true intentions. Besides, one should also be discreet about sharing ideas since they can easily be stolen.
They were never meant to be in a drawing room, Champa, or like coffee table books for display. They're more like library books to assist research for the younger generation and upcoming artists. Over the years, though, we plan on building a whole series of documentation of Pakistani contemporary artists. Other than that, we have displayed publications to the Karachi Literature Festival's platform, and our distribution also happens through the library and bookstore at the Jameel Art Centre in Dubai. Last year we were invited to Focal Point by the Sharjah Art Foundation. It was a publications event, only a few handpicked organizations from around the world to showcase their books.
Oh yeah. Vasl Artists Association has always been generous in supporting art in Pakistan. We went a step ahead in our research and opened our list of publications to all galleries, individual artist publications, museum publications, private collections, all for the event. We had an inventory of around 400 publications, and not to boast about it, but everyone loved us. If I recall, I think we had zines by Champa in there as well. What a small world.
Oh yeah.
Champa gleamed with pride. These girls did know her. She and a few other people had given them a few quotes about the meaning of life and of art. Foreseeing a contract for a book, her face glowed with pride. However, she acted humble and tried to obtain information about their upcoming publications.
So enough about me. So tell me, what other publications are you working on?
Although Champa wanted to hear more praise about herself, she didn't want people to think she was excavating for compliments. She was hoping this was when they offered her a book deal.
Well, we do lots of kinds of publications. When residents come live with us for residencies, sometimes we create books as part of their artworks. Recently, actually, we did an experimental sketchbook that we took to the Focal Point event. It was called Optics of a City, and we had artists send in their artworks, and we mixed it up with lots of kind of papers and lots of kind of text, and it actually was quite a success. People loved it. They wanted to buy these sketchbooks based on Karachi and all these artworks based on Karachi. And We've also done the Children's Creativity Sketchbook. Other than that, we also do smaller publications. So some of these workshops that we do, we've done smaller workbooks for children and like for teacher training workshops. I mean, we really do all kinds of stuff here.
Wow.
Yeah, and Optics of the City, it has all the artists from Karachi responding to the city. Maybe I could send you a copy, Champa.
So it was for children?
No, Optics of the City wasn't for children. The other one was.
Ooh.
Slightly disappointed about not being offered a contract right away, Champa figured that Adila would take her out for dinner and make the offer then. So she decided to keep giving these girls her brilliant advice. Champa was also a little confused about why they were working on a children's book. Children aren't important. They don't have any money of their own.
Okay, so what about a catalog on art collectors? What about an online portal? Or an online weekly or monthly magazine? It would be so much more cost effective, you know. One of my friends, Jani's, I need to tell you this. One of my friends hired a fresh graduate from Indus to handle her social media. She takes this graduate everywhere, to parties and to like brunches. This girl takes the best pictures, I tell you, and shares them on my friend's Instagram. She started to get so many likes now, it's amazing.
Champa really hoped her invaluable advice was being appreciated. She knew she had a way with words to make everything sound intelligent. She was also incredibly good at judging people and gauged exactly what to say to whom. She prided in knowing all the important people of Karachi.
Oh, really? That's pretty cute.
Yeah.
We've got a small team working at Vasl. The dynamics are just great. Since there's no hierarchy, we actually overlap quite a bit in what all we manage. So most of these tasks like social media, photography and editing, they're all done in-house. It's a super active space. There's always some resident artist or the other staying over at the apartment, there's always music, there's a constant buzz. Often it just doesn't seem like work at all. But with that said, everything serious happens there as well.
Oh wow, that sounds lovely. Maybe I'll come over with some lunch to Vasl one of these days. Jani, let me tell you, my cook does an excellent hand-rolled pasta with pesto. You can show me the projects that you're working on also. So I'll get the food and you show me the projects. I'm sure I'll be able to guide you on them.
As Champa said this, she assumed they would jump at the opportunity to eat with her. That too, the hand-rolled pasta made by her cook. But she was met with silence. Champa suddenly started feeling very self-conscious. The combination of high expectations and high insecurities is a fascinating one. At times, it helps one achieve great things, but at times it also freezes one's mental functions. And all they can muster is a fake smile. During that particular moment, on the elegant balcony, the latter happened to Champa. So she knew nothing but to smile as wide as she could while observing everyone's expressions. Maybe they were feeling shy about accepting her invitation. After all, she was a force of nature and several people found her intimidating, and that made life very difficult for her. All the women were jealous of her.
Yeah. Anyway, let me tell you about a recent Vasl venture. As part of our educational outreach programs, we have been training teachers from the disadvantaged areas of the city, giving them crash courses on critical and creative thinking.
Thinking, you know what, Jani, let me tell you, thinking creatively can save lives. Art can save lives. I've always wanted to conduct a workshop like that too. I do think I'm somewhat of an art advocate.
Anyway, the workshops are called Takhliki Salayat. I don't know if you're aware of them. These are follow-up by some exercises they could incorporate in their classrooms. We have produced a teacher's manual as well as a children's workbook they could follow up in our absence. You know the ones I just mentioned?
Yes.
Through such programs, I think we've trained around over 500 teachers.
Oh my god.
Champa had just informed them that she is an art advocate, which they all ignored. They must be jealous of her. She decided to pretend like she didn't care. She actually didn't care at all, but it would naturally linger in her mind for a while.
It's really nice actually. After 2 projects back to back in the previous year, we visited 7 locations in the city. Liari, Moripur, Orangi, Saki Hassan, Chakragot, Sachirgot, and Ibrahim Hedri. You're familiar with these places, right? So we went there. We trained individuals in curation, critical and creative thinking, poster making and campaigning, and to exhibit contemporary art in their facilities. It was a huge success. Lately, Adila has been taking classes at Liari actually. Liari is marked as the red zone of Karachi, and it's actually been known to be home to gang wars. But Adila actually started going there to do these workshops.
Yeah. These workshops are held at this vocational center, which used to be a torture cell. Recently, it was retrieved for the rehabilitation of the same youth that were involved in the unpleasant activities, and it's now privately funded by, guess what? Individuals like you!
Oh my god.
Isn't that cool? In fact, why don't you come check it out with us the next time we go?
No, darling, I can't go to these dangerous places without an armed guard. And being in a car with a guard holding a gun just gives me anxiety. But you know what? A friend was telling me it's not as unsafe as we think it is. So maybe, if you insist, I might just come along with you next time when Vasl does a project over there. Why don't you give me Adila's number? But you know what? I do think it's important to share this on social media. Maybe we can even get schools and colleges to send in their students to volunteer. But anyway, give me Adila's number.
Sure. Why don't you give us yours and I'll just keep you posted. Maybe I'll put you in the subscribers list so you can be notified every time we do something or something comes up.
Darling, just give me her number. Darling, you know I have everyone's phone numbers.
Champa could get anyone's number whenever she wanted. She figured it would only be a matter of time before she would become a board member of Vasl. Upon hearing that the vocational centers were privately funded, she realized what a blessing in disguise it was that we have an inefficient government. It provided influentials like Champa a platform to become saviors. She dreamt of curating socially responsible projects in the slums. These projects would make everyone's lives better. The slum children would grow up into responsible, happy adults. She would create this beautiful space where art and social work would intersect. Even making a poor child smile could be considered art. She also decided she would hire a fresh graduate and make this person a personal photographer. Champa had always wanted to be a human rights advocate. Apparently, they earn in thousands of dollars just by calling themselves advocates.
So, are you guys on social media? You know, social media is amazing. And you know what? I can actually give you guys a shout out.
Actually, we are on social media. We do a lot of outreach and publicity through social media. Plus, we stay connected with what's happening in the art world. So we have our website, our Facebook, our Insta. I mean, we're actually quite
Active.
We're actually quite active and updated.
We have a lot of followers.
Champa decided to ignore that as well.
So you know what? So one of my friends regularly hosts dinner for artists. And I have to tell you, the conversations that happen at these dinners, oh my god. Phenomenal. I'll tell you, phenomenal. So many amazing ideas come out of these dinners. And I also feel that some artists want a mentor, but they don't even realize it. And it's so important to get all these creative people together in one space and get them to communicate, you know. It's like a 1 evening long residency. But speaking of residencies, is Vasl host any?
Of course, Vasl is primarily a residency program. We host residencies for international and national artists throughout the year. Sometimes we collaborate with institutions and funding bodies. Other times we create concepts and themes that residencies can be structured around and invite international artists, teaching artists, a group of artists to participate. They live at Vasl residence or sometimes even studio spaces we worked out for them. Travel around the city, meet other artists and curators, whoever they wish, and create works that mostly culminate into a final show at the end of their residencies.
We're actually affiliated with the Triangle Network. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. Triangle Network is based in the UK. It's a global network of artists and visual art organizations. They support cultural exchange among artists, curators, and other art professionals throughout the world. So through that, we have sister organizations like Khoj in India, Brito in Bangladesh, Theatre in Sri Lanka. And basically all these partner organizations are also doing similar work to us. So all of them are residency organizations. One of our popular programs has been the Gasworks International Fellowship Program. It's an exchange residency program between Vasl and Gasworks. And we send a Pakistani artist to live at Gasworks and to produce work, and Gasworks sends over an artist to live at Vasl.
Oh my.
So that's been an interesting journey for us. Other than that, we've had a lot of kinds of artists. I mean, in the recent few years, we've had a German fashion designer, Singaporean photographer, Australian surgeon coming and doing drawing workshops, British performance artist, Australian Swiss journalists, designers, visual artists. I mean, really, like anyone for all kinds of work.
Yeah. We focus, but let me tell you, we focus just as much on local artists and try to bring in talent from different parts of Pakistan as well. I mean, it's really diverse, and I think we really do encourage people from all kinds of disciplines and backgrounds, because it's not like we're trying to sell work, right? I mean, we're actually just trying to facilitate them to produce more experimental work.
Not concerned about selling, Champa struggled to control her facial expressions as she did not want to reveal her confusion and curiosity. Maybe this was a long-term investment, the ones which do not pay off initially but in a decade or so have a big return.
One of our main programs is the 5 or 6 week long residency called Tasatari. We host this every spring, like every year, for young graduates of the country. We put out an open call and select not just the most promising artists, but graduates who propose to develop their process and final works during the stay of their residency. This is very important to us at Vasl. We're less concerned about selling works and more helping and facilitating the artists explore the untapped avenues and materials. We're interested in them using their time to open their minds and grow their practices,
Champa always dreamt of being a mentor figure. Advising young local artists would be such a joy. Similar to an artist incubator, Champa wondered if she could pick an artist with the most potential and adopt him or her. And then once the artist starts displaying in international fairs, she could start inviting them to her family weddings and other dinners.
I mean, Champa, you're a collector, right? You would know maybe.
Yes.
We've had some fantastic artists through Tasathareen over the years. In fact, many of the initial Tasathareen artists are now quite well known. Maybe you know of Ali Kazim, Muhammad Ali Talpur,
Yes.
Mohsin Shafi,
Yes.
Aisha Durrani,
Yes,
Mehreen
of course.
Zubairi,
I know everyone.
Seema Nusrat, I could go on.
I know everyone, darling.
They're all Tasathareen.
Oh, wow, Johnny. But this all sounds very fascinating. I was actually thinking about how the art is affected by all these the socializing habits of the artists. Essentially, that is the core purpose of residencies, right? Like, I also feel that no one looks at the environment of the artist. And the environment plays such a huge role. The art, what type of art is being produced, right? This residency sounds like you give artists a chance to work and party together. And oh wow, the ideas that must be floating around should be really something. Like, I think one can even write a book on it. I also enjoy writing. Maybe once a Tasatari residency starts, invite me over. I love writing about art and artists, and I do think I can offer a new perspective on art. I've studied psychology in college, A lot of my friends look up to me and ask me for advice on which artist to invest in.
Excited at this opportunity, Champa wondered how becoming a writer in residence for this residency would affect her social life. It would definitely give her an access to the artist's social circle. After all she wanted was to be appreciated by everyone. Maybe she could even implicitly advise the artists on what kind of works to produce, and advise them how to create paintings that gel in with other pieces. Besides, she always wanted to show off her knowledge through her flawless writing skills.
Anyway, so over the last few years, we've also tried to host the finale residency show openings in locations and venues that are not necessarily gallery spaces or conventional sites. But these are unique spaces that lend themselves to the variety of works being produced by the artists. 2 years ago, we discovered the Jamshed Memorial School in Sadr, which is home to the Theosophical Society. It became a fantastic location for the Tasathareen 8 show. We paired that up with a private apartment building where there was also some showcase of one of the artists, and we ran a rickshaw service between the two locations for all the visitors.
Wait, so you So like everyone sat in a rickshaw? That must be a lot of fun.
It was.
Oh, okay. So it's actually great. It's actually absolutely fantastic that you're creating these experiences alongside these art shows. I mean, so if you look at the consumption of art, Janice, the consumption of art is in such a bubble over here. I keep telling my friends that we keep going to the same galleries over and over again. But going to distant lands, which we usually don't venture into, for art would be such an experience in itself. Oh my god, like I'm thinking right now, like you could even do a project on how people react to such experiences. Like I am sure one would see so many new sights. It's a different world out there. Really. It's like a different kind of exposure. And you know what? The more exposure we get, the better we become.
That's true.
We never learn anything new staying in our comfortable bubbles. And you know what? You should actually do an interview of art collectors before and after the rickshaw ride. We could actually write a paper on the psychological impact of rickshaw rides on the elite mindset.
How about we start with you?
I would love that, Johnny.
Exhilarated, Champa started thinking about how important it is to explore one's own city. Living in Karachi, most of her friends never ventured that far out. It sounded almost like an adventure. An exposure to such spaces and situations could benefit people's intellect and humor. Champa felt that everyone needed to think more and be more excited about things in general. Even walking in spaces which are designed in an old-fashioned manner have an effect on the subconscious. This was something Champa felt she could be a part of. She started thinking of ways she could get a hold of these culturally important buildings to host events. Maybe she could collaborate with Vasl on that.
I'm sure it sounds beautiful. And I mean, giving like these abandoned buildings an intellectual and emotional property, it really helps in developing people's imaginations, I would say.
Right. So last August, we opened our artist in resident Heather Naqvi's show, Conversations, at this abandoned Hum TV studio, almost in a wreck on the third floor above Art Council. We played with the space. We integrated the artworks with the look of the space. I mean, it was fantastic what you can do with these venues. Yeah, so we're all about exploring new places. So for Taza Tareen 8, we had our artist Arslan Nasser. He laid out all his work on the main Seaview beach, which is the public beach here, right? So that was really nice. We had and then we had Razeen Ruben and Arif Badri in that same residency, who did the interactive performance pieces on the streets outside Adila Studio in Kashmir Colony.
As a matter of fact, right now we're running the Taza Tareen 11, which is being hosted at KPI, which is the Karachi Parsi Institute, and it matches directly with the theme of the residency, which is diversity and adversity. And the Zoroastrians and the Parsis are a minority, so the studios over there are just brilliant.
Oh my god, that sounds absolutely incredibly fascinating. But tell me, like, what about the security?
Champa, don't you think you question security of the city a lot? I mean, touch wood. We have never had a bad experience, and the people are pretty gentle and welcoming. Always.
That's heartwarming to hear. Like, you really made my evening by telling me that. But I also think it's amazing that you expose the public to this kind of stuff. I mean, just imagine how exciting it must be for them to see the performance art for the first time in their lives. Like, I am sure these people become better humans because of these experiences. It truly builds societies. Honestly, I really feel that if we expose people in the lower income areas to art, the crime rate over here will go down.
Champa loved the sound of her own voice. And as she heard herself talk, she started fantasizing about hosting an art festival one day in one of those impoverished areas. She could call in live painters, sculptors, and performance artists. What joy it would bring. She was certain that if she pulled this festival off, she could possibly win a few awards. So she decided to accompany Adila the next time Vasl undertakes an outreach project.
But Johnny's, tell me, do you get additional security?
Oh god.
In all honesty, public places make Champa a little nervous. She was a keen supporter of the existence of public places, but she felt that public spaces should be regulated depending on the amount of cash you were carrying and the weight of jewelry that you were wearing.
Actually, we're not too worried about the security. I mean, we do take necessary precautions and have our support staff with us. At Vasl, security concerns have never been an obstacle when it comes to the kind of projects we undertake or, even just invest ourselves in. Even though we're a working group of all girls for the most part. So in 2017 and 16, we did the I AM KARACHI Walls of Peace project. I'm not sure if you've seen the walls around the city.
I have.
So yeah, Vasl have done those. It was a huge success for us. We worked with painters. We went out on the roads. We visited various locations across the city. We fixed walls, repainted them with paintings and artworks. And
everything was designed by Vasl, just by the way.
I mean, we had some designs sent in by participants, but really, we had all these paintings we put out there, and we interacted closely with the residents of the localities. We spoke to them about their issues, we got their feedback, we got their critique on the new colors. So, I mean, really, we never really thought that security was a concern. We were just out there.
So tell me this, you girls went on the roads unaccompanied?
Yeah.
So this could be a performance in itself. I mean, maybe next time when you go out on these roads alone, get a personal photographer with you. He will document your adventures and you can show that work abroad. Johnnies, they will love it. They will absolutely love it. Girls roaming the streets in Pakistan alone. So I just went to this talk where they were saying this exact same thing. That everything intelligent you do must be shared on social media, otherwise it didn't happen. So what's the point of venturing out of the fence if you're not going to take photographs and put it up on social media? How will people know?
Yeah, but anyway, this has been an eye-opening experience for us. We've seen a ripple effect of this. Commercial companies have taken it up upon themselves to paint walls around the city with famous monuments and stuff. I mean, instead of the usual graffiti we're so tired of seeing. And authorities like the CAN station, they took it upon themselves to install lighting over the walls once we were done.
Oh, wow.
They cleaned up the footpaths and they completely uplifted the area once we were done. And people passing by would stop by to give us critique or just say what we should add to the painting. It was a great feeling being out there and interacting with the public like that.
Wow, yes. I mean, I can imagine, you said it was an eye-opening experience for you. You're opening my eyes right now as we speak. It's amazing. But you know what? Between my friends and my husband's friends, we can all get you products and equipment that you could only dream about.
Really?
It is, yes, absolutely. It is, I mean, I believe, this is what I truly believe. It is so, so important for the human mind to be always exposed to pretty looking art. Johnny, let me tell you this. The human mind grows when it looks at pretty art. If you expose the human mind to beauty, colors and form, it makes people happy. And everyone wants to be happy. Who doesn't want to be happy? People say I throw the best parties. Yes, I throw the best parties. And you know why that is? Because I'm happy, I'm a happy person, and I collect good and happy art.
Cheers to that.
Yes, cheers to that.
Yeah, that's really nice. I think we have a rooftop talk coming up. Would you and your husband like to join us? Don't wear heels though, it's on the 5th floor.
Darling, I have gone up and down clubbing in Manhattan in my heels. My husband is super fond of discos. But tell me something, don't you have an elevator?
Yeah, we are about that. Yeah, we use that up for the storage space.
Ooh.
So yeah, but anyway, this rooftop talk that she's mentioning, it's actually a series of talks that we host on the Vasl rooftop. Vasl has always had some kind of talks in some capacity actually. Previously, they would have art shares where artists would share their works with the art community. We'd have art studies. We've had, whenever resident artists come to live with us, they come and share their works at universities and schools.
Oh my God.
So we've always had some kind of talks. But I mean, last year we made it a thing. So we formalized it. We call it the Rooftop Talk series. And then we invited artists, or we would invite a curator and an artist, or moderate a dialogue or a panel discussion. And we would have it on our rooftop where we can have about 100 people audience.
Yeah, 100. And this would happen like once a month at least.
But you know, so that actually all sounds amazing. But you know what? Because I throw great parties, and I'm telling you this, what you should actually do is get an elevator. And then once you get an elevator, what we should do is host a soiree at your rooftop. Fly an international DJ, and you know what? Auction the paintings. Get artists to donate paintings, auction them off, and then invite the artists, get them to speak to the guests, and convince them to buy the paintings. Yes.
Wow, that sounds really interesting, and I'm sure you're right. But our current direction seems pretty successful for us. We had the artist community attending these talks. We've had students and their friends. It's been good. I think at some point we plan on sharing videos or audios of these talks, so they almost become archival material for the people to look back at.
Oh, okay, that sounds quite fascinating. It sounds amazing, actually. But you know, like with talks, I was thinking, because I think a lot, we really should think about the history of talks. You know, maybe I was thinking mankind has grown out of the era of speeches. Only politicians give speeches now, and no one takes a politician seriously anymore. Talks are the new speeches. But you know, I do wonder how many people actually listen to talks anymore. But you know what? When I talk, everyone listens.
Wow.
Yes,
Yeah.
they do. They love listening to me. Plus,
Sure.
passing on knowledge for free is such a grand gesture, Johnny, I'm telling you. I was actually thinking of hosting a conference in my garden because it's beautiful. And I'm currently writing a paper on the aesthetics of art.
Really?
Yes, I am on the aesthetics of art. I can't even pronounce the word anymore. It's going to be cutting edge, I tell you. And you know what? I want everyone to benefit from my intelligence.
When one is bestowed with such a great voice and a naturally acquired elegant accent, talks are the way to go. Maybe Champa could give a talk on the psychological impact of visually striking paintings in one's drawing room. Or she could talk about how the definition of art keeps evolving constantly. So much to talk about and to think about. Sometimes Champa felt being an intellectual is such a curse.
Well, you seem to have a lot of thoughts about art. Are you interested to moderate an artist talk, maybe?
What, yeah?
You know, we often host them on our rooftops or in small study groups at universities and galleries to discuss art practices. They're pretty helpful for the students and the emerging artists. We draw comparisons, discuss methods and mediums, ideas, and you seem to have a lot of them. It gets you to understand work better.
Are you actually asking me to moderate a talk? I mean, Jani, I would absolutely love to, I honestly think if you get me to moderate a talk, it would actually bring in like 500 people and you won't be able to fit everyone on your roof. Then you need an elevator.
Yeah, that's true. And plus we're booked for the next, 3 years already. I'll let you know.
We
when
can talk
have
about
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I'll come over for lunch.
Champa wanted to revolutionize the art world through her intellect. But by now, she had exhausted all of her bold and brilliant ideas. And for her, any moment not spent impressing random humans is a moment wasted. As it was, she was feeling a little mentally drained. She started eyeing other people around her, again, ignoring the ones she knew. Champa identified herself as the woman who possessed everything, and she felt a need to rise above everyone else to feel validated. She craved the compliments so much that she would choose to spend most days doing the things that she hated, only so she could impress everyone. Champa had become addicted to not only the warm, fuzzy feeling of affirmation when someone complimented her, but also to that cold sense of satisfaction when any woman looked at her with envy. The more contact she gathered, the bigger her ego got. She realized she had just spent an hour talking to these girls. That was more than enough. One should never be seen talking to the same group for the entire duration of a party. It gives people the impression that you don't have any other friends. She spotted another well-connected person at the other end of the balcony, and without saying a single word, she sashayed away, making sure her toned hips became the center of these people's attention. Equipped with diamonds and a brilliant mind, she decided she would adopt Vasl and turn it into the most famous art-producing organization in Pakistan. and all her friends would be so terribly envious of her.